Hello everybody. Today I'm going to make a video on replacing your anode rod on your water heater. This is called a sacrificial anode rod right here, and what its purpose is in your water heater, and most water heaters have one of these. Its purpose is to actually draw anything in the water that would corrode your tank to it instead of whatever is in your water corroding the tank. It'll corrode this bar, and over time this bar being corroded by the elements in the water will wear. So I'm going to replace this on mine. I've already checked it and it's definitely needing replacement. So I will put links to this stuff, to this rod, and my specific hot water heater, which is an A.O.Smith ECT 55200 tank. It's a very common hot water tank, and it's electric. But regardless, this is not the OEM or original equipment manufacturer spec sacrificial rod or aluminum rod. They actually spec a 16-inch rod, which is much smaller than this one. This one's actually 42 inches, and it should last much longer than the original because it's that much bigger. The tank is actually about 5 feet tall, so 48 inches should be no problem. You don't want any of these rods to hit your tank. Most of the tanks in hot water heaters are glass lined, and if you hit it with one of these rods, you might break the glass. And once you break the glass, the water gets at the steel in the tank, and it will rot and create a hole in your tank eventually. So again, don't want to do that. I will put the OEM part in the video description below for this specific tank. You should check the internet or Google your tank to see which is the specific part for your tank and go with that. But again, this thing will work in my tank, and it has the correct head for my tank. So that's the other thing. You have to have the right thread at the top and the right diameter rod to get in through that the hole that it goes into. All of that will be in the video description below for this tank, and the specifications for this rod as well as the OEM one. All right, let's get to the tank and get this rod in there. Oh, one more thing. If your rod, if you get your rod like I did from Amazon, it may have these warehouse stickers on them, so I'd suggest peeling these off before you go and install it. You don't want these things flaking off inside your water tank. My water heater is a 240 volt device, but regardless of what yours is, you should turn the power off on it before you do any work, and that applies to just about any electrical appliance or device that you're working on. Turn the power off before you work on it. So in my case, it's labeled as water heater on the panel, and I'm just going to hit the breaker over to off. And when you see off on both sides, as long as you got the right breaker, you've got the power off to your water heater. Remember, safety first. Okay. First consideration, here we are. This is my hot water heater here. This is the top of it, and obviously it's in my pantry, but regardless, first consideration before we put any kind of rod into this water heater is, will it fit? Now, a lot of water heaters don't have a lot of clearance above them, so if you were wanting to put a 42-inch anode rod into your water heater, but you only have 2 feet of clearance on the top of it, you're going to have a problem. It's not going to be able to be put in, and you can't bend these. You don't bend these rods at all. But you can actually cut this one. But if you only had 2 feet of clearance, maybe you could cut it in 2.5 feet and angle it and get it in there. But really, then you're wasting the rest of that rod. Maybe get the right one, or maybe get something called a segmented rod. Now, these rods are made of aluminum. Some of them are made out of magnesium. You should check to see what yours is made out of, what the specification for your hot water tank is, and get the right metal for your tank. But they do sell aluminum and magnesium ones in what they call segmented anode rods. And basically what they are is rods that are cut into certain lengths with a space of the anode center wire in there, so you could actually just bend the rod in and put it into it without any issue at all, and you wouldn't have any clearance issues. I don't have any clearance issues because my ceiling is high enough from the top of this water tank for me to put this in. But again, I'll put a link to the segmented rods in the video description below, just in case you don't have the clearance above the water tank to do this. Okay, so I've got the stickers off of this. I didn't want the stickers going into the tank. You never know what that could foul up. Next thing we need to do, we've turned off the power, number one, safety, wearing the glasses. Number two, we're dealing with hot water here, hot water that's under pressure. Okay, so next thing we need to do is release that pressure, and I'll show you how to turn off the main to your hot water tank. If you have one on top of your tank or near your tank, that'll be the easiest way. If you don't, you need to turn the main source of water to your house off, or your main off, so that there's no water pressure left. So that's step one. Step two will be to actually drain the pressure from the system, which is very basic. I'll show you how to do that too. Okay, coming into your water tank, you've got two feed lines. The first one is the input from the cold. This is it right here. Mine are copper. Yours more than likely are too. Who knows what they used in your house? But basically, this is a cold feed line, and they're actually labeled on top of the tank as well. This is the hot water feed line on the other side. This is the electrical conduit. This is what feeds electricity to the actual hot water heater. So just so you know what those three things are. But basically what we need to do is deal with the cold input to your actual tank. And that's this here. It has the cutoff or the shut-off valve right on top, and you can see that the valve is actually pointing parallel down to the outlet from the actual valve. So that means it's on, and you know, I get hot water in out of my taps, so I know that's on at that point. But basically, we're going to turn this off, and that's going 90 degrees, and now we're perpendicular to the actual flow of the water out of the pipe, as you can see. Now we're off, so mine stops there, yours probably does too. And now we've got the actual water pressure turned off to the tank, but the tank is still pressurized. So we need to go to a tap, a hot water tap, anywhere on the same level of your house, maybe a couple of the taps, and just open them up and let the hot water drain out of there. There won't be all that much, well, there shouldn't be all that much, but open up the hot water like you were filling up a pot of water and leave it open until we're done. We've got the water off, or turned off to the hot water tank, so let's just turn on the hot water here on any tap on the same level. Let the pressure drain. That's about all it should take. And also just leave it open too to let it drain. You know, as you can see, some still coming out here, so let it drain for about 5-10 minutes, and then we can move on to our next step in this process, which will be taking out the anode from the top of the tank. All right, we're down to a very small trickle here, so I'm just going to shut that off. And let's get at the tank. All right, here we have the top of the tank, and you can see various orifices here, like these, and basically the input and output out of the tank. But and this is the electrical, of course. But here's where the anode is on my tank, right here. And what you need is a 1 1/16 inch socket. I don't have one of those, but I do have a deep well 27 millimeter, which is almost exactly the same size. So a 27 millimeter socket will do. If you don't have a deep one, a regular socket will do, but you'll probably need an extension to get the actual ratchet on it, because mine is recessed inside this hole, and this collar here comes off. I've got it lifted off here. I already took it off once. I didn't want to recess it back in again, and I used a pry bar, small pry bar like that to take it off, but a screwdriver will do. Just put it under the edge and pull it up. So we're going to do that here. Basically, I've done the hard part already, but the collar has to come off because the socket will not fit inside that collar. It's just too tight. So, but it will fit once you take it off. So that's what we need to go into, and the anode is right down here on this. And another thing you might want to keep handy is a towel, just in case there is some pressure left in the tank. You can, you know, if the water comes out, you can mop it up with that before it hits anything and be safe. Now we can see the head on the anode right there. And, you know, I've looked online. A lot of people say you should use an impact wrench, or you shouldn't use an impact wrench. So you do your own research on that. I'm going to use the 27 millimeter socket and the ratchet, the 1/2 inch ratchet on that. And hopefully that'll do the job without issue. But again, up to you. And, you know, if you have a ratchet, maybe use it. I'm just showing you for the layman that you can actually take it off with a regular ratchet. Some people say it's on there so heavy that you need to put an extension on your ratchet to get it off, sorry. But here's the other thing I want to mention. A lot of people say drain the tank. And I'm against draining the tank for one reason. When the tank is full of 55 gallons of water, plus the weight of the tank, that's about 700 pounds. So it's less likely to move the tank when you're really torquing onto that head if it's on there that tight. So if you move the tank with these fittings still on the tank, the water fittings, you may break the pipes or you may break something else. So you don't want to twist the tank at all. So I say leave it full, leave it weighing 700 pounds because it's less likely to move that way. Okay, but up to you. And mine is full right now, so I'm going to get onto this nut and take it off. So let's go. There we go. Pretty tight, but like I said, I didn't put it on there so super tight you can't get it off. If yours is on there really tight, then you may have to use a pry bar or a breaker bar or an impact wrench. So there we go. I think that's loose. Yeah. Oh, there it is. I got it with the socket. Oh, gee, dropped it back in there. Let's see if I can get that out again. Let's try that again. A little bit of an angle and we got it. There we go. So there's the head to the anode bar. And oh boy, look at that. That's the core wire that was wrapped, that the anode bar was wrapped around. There's no anode bar left there anymore. All the aluminum on that bar has been eaten up by the water. So, and that's exactly what's supposed to happen. And here's some more of what's left of the aluminum. Wow, look at that. Try not to break that off and have that fall into the tank. So basically that rod is done. I mean, there's nothing. There's no meat left on that bone. Okay, just that little bit there. So I'm very happy to be changing it at this point. I think it's about 2 feet long here, but like I said, I don't think the new rod is going to be any issue getting down there all the way to the bottom, or not all the way to the bottom, all the way in without hitting anything, because this whole tank is 5 feet tall and the actual anode rod I'm going to put in there is 48 inches, which is double the size of this one. And as far as I can see, that's a good thing because that means it'll last longer. That thing is done. Look at it. Wow. That ugliness. That's what's left of the rod. Now this tank is actually now almost 11 years old. It's still working well. So, you know, hey, I'm definitely going to replace this and make it go. All right, you look down there, you can see a lot of dirt and garbage on the threads. So I'm going to use a paper towel or something just to clean that up a bit. Get it nice and clean. If I see any calcification in there, I've got a little hook tool that I'm going to use to just basically go through the threads like this and you know, get any of the dirt in the threads out, because that'll help to seal. And after that, we'll put the Teflon pipe tape on the actual anode threads and put it in. Okay, now I'm going to put some pipe tape on there, Teflon pipe, what do they call it, PTFE tape. And that basically seals the threads. I'm going to use a lot, probably about 3 layers all the way around. And the trick with this tape to make it effective, and again, you can use tape or you can use this stuff, which is pipe sealant, thread sealant. I'm going to use the tape as I've had better luck with that stuff, but other people will prefer the pipe sealant. You can if you wish. I will put links to this stuff in the video description below. And the trick to the tape is to put it on in direction of, basically in the direction that you're going to thread. So in this case, we're going to go clockwise, which is this direction. That's to tighten it up. And so the tape should be put on from the bottom and then wound around. So let's just start that. I'm not going to do the whole thing. I'm just going to show you how I start it and then, you know, let you go on from there. And basically, is you put it on, try and keep it as straight as possible. Hard to do this with it on film, to tell you the truth. But anyways, what you do is you put it on the bottom, like so, and then you wrap in the direction of threading. In other words, you're going to go clockwise. So basically at this point, you're going to go this way and all the way across. But I'm not going to leave this on here because it's all bunched up. I like a flat tape on there, and so I'm going to do that somewhere else. I'm just showing you here from this camera angle so that you can see how it goes. And then wrap it all the way down. So that's what I'm going to do. All right, there's my pipe tape on there, nice and thick, as you can see. Ready to put that that anode back into the actual unit. Get some of that goopy stuff off of there. And you know, a lot of people say, "Oh, you put too much tape on there. It's not going to get contact with the side of with the tank. Well, it will. This tape will shred on when I thread it, and it will make contact, metal on metal contact to the tank. This rod needs to be in contact with the tank to actually work. So if it, again, I can do a continuity test when I'm done between the outside of the tank and the actual rod with my meter, and it will show you that it's actually making metal to metal contact, because it will conduct electricity. It is an electrochemical process that goes on with this rod, so it does need to make contact with the metal on the side of the tank. So next we're going to put this in here. Shouldn't be too much of an issue. All right. Fortunately, I have the space to do this. There we go. Going in really nicely. No issue at all. There we go. And now it's just sitting there waiting to be threaded. So I'm going to take my 27 millimeter, or if you have it, 1/16 socket, but mine is 27. Okay, that's hand tight there to the bottom. You can see, and I don't know if I got that properly threaded or not, but it looks okay. I'm gonna double check it, and we'll torque this down. All right, there it is, snug tight. I'm gonna put the socket back on here and tighten it down all the way. See what happens. Take a look and see what it looks like right now. It's getting down there. That's about as tight as I had it before, so I'm just going to stop right there. And now I'm going to turn the water pressure on, see if I got any leaks. Okay, I pressurized the tank. I'm looking at that opening there, that nut and orifice, and I don't see any water trickling out at all. I'm going to keep an eye on it for a little bit. Now I've got the water pressure by opening the input valve from the cold turned on, and basically pressurizing. The tank is pressurized. I'm also going to next turn the power back on, and that's just the exact reverse job that I showed you on the actual panel. Just turn the switches back on, and let the tank heat up again. And after that, I'm going to put that cap back on, this little collar back on here, but it's not going to go on very deep. I'm just going to put it on like that loosely, just in case I ever have to take it off again. I can just easily take it off. I mean, it's just there for looks anyway. So again, like I said, we're going to next turn the tank on and drain any air that's in the system by opening up the hot water taps again, and letting it run for a little bit, and that should be it. The anode has been changed, fit no problem. I don't have any issues, I don't have any leaks down here, so a job well done at this point. All right, the tank is now pressurized. I turned the water back on to it, and I'm looking down in that hole, and I don't see any extra water coming up or anything pooling or anything, so I don't think it's leaking at all. I think I've successfully sealed it. So that tape did a good job. You did use a lot. Let's test and see if it's got conductivity there. Let's take our meter out and do a conductivity test. Okay, here's a conductivity test. That's really not necessary, but I'm just going to do it for the sake of doing it, just to show that the actual anode rod is making, well, the thread on the top of the anode rod is actually making contact with the tank. I'm going to put my one lead onto the relief valve, or the pressure release valve on the side of the tank, and then one on here, and you should hear it going beep, and that means we've got conductivity. So yep, it definitely has conductivity, no problem at all, and that's exactly what it needs to have to work. All right, next I'm just going to put this decorative collar back in there like so. I'm not going to go all the way down, just like that, just so I can easily take it out next time I want to take it out. next time I want to check the rod. Like I said, this rod in my tank lasted 11 years. That's actually probably a very long time, and it may have been replaced prior to me owning this house, but it actually is, should be good now for a lot longer, because the other rod was 2 feet long. This one's 4 feet long. So, should be good, but I'm going to check it every couple of years, maybe every 3 years, and see what state it's in. And if it needs to be replaced, I will replace it again. Okay, I've got the water pressure onto it. I've turned the valve to the open position, so the tank is now pressurized. I checked again to see if there's any leaking. There isn't. I've gone out to the panel and switched the switch back on, so now the water heater has electricity going to it, and it's starting to warm up again. And as you know, whether you know or not, when things warm up, they expand. So I'm going to check it every couple of hours just to make sure that I don't have any slow leaks on the top caused by all this, jostling that I did to the tank. I didn't really do much, but I did move a little bit. So you never know. And I'm paranoid about water leaking in my house, so I'm going to check it every couple of hours to make sure I'm good. Probably once every 2 hours for 4 hours, and then probably I'll come back down tomorrow morning and check it again to make sure that it's dry and not leaking. That's what I suggest you do as well, just to be sure it's good and it's tight. Okay, anything that you saw in this video, like the rod or any of the equipment that I use, will be linked in the video description below. So if you want to get the same stuff I use for this tank, you can go and get it there. Go to the links in the video description below and get them from the people that I bought them from. The rod was actually under $20 at the current date, but you never know, prices do change over time. Okay, that's it for my video. If you liked this video and it helped you out in some way, do me a big favor and click on the like button here in the bottom right hand corner and give me a thumbs up. That helps my video, it helps my channel, and I greatly appreciate it. Also, somewhere here on the screen you should see a picture of me. Usually it's over here. And that picture is a subscription link. Just click on the link and you'll be subscribed to my channel. YouTube has added an extra step to it, and that is the bell icon. And if you click on the bell icon, you'll be notified immediately every time I put a new video up, and then you can watch it at your own leisure. Once again, and like always, I want to thank you all for watching and for your time.